September 13th, 2017. The IT manager of a major Russian bank was having a perfectly normal day until 3 a.m. His phone rang. It was the bank's chief accountant, voice trembling with fear. The message was urgent. Call the IT security team immediately. Something is very wrong. Without a second thought, the manager reached out to Kaspersky, requesting an expert on site right away. He told them, "I think the nightmare that's been haunting the world has finally reached Russia. Today, we are talking about a massive global operation. Usually, a heist is a one-time hit. You strike, you steal, and you vanish. But this operation lasted 2 years, spanning 30 different countries. The details are so sensitive that many names and figures remain classified. Revealing the full extent of this breach could trigger a global economic crisis. I want to welcome our new viewers. Make sure to subscribe. And to everyone watching, hit that like button." Let's talk about Carbanak. This wasn't just a group of kids stealing credit card numbers. These were the geniuses of the digital underworld, a highly organized criminal network operating like a Fortune 500 company. They had specialized departments, a team for hacking, a team for surveillance, and a third team dedicated solely to moving and laundering money. They even had boots on the ground, operatives whose only job was to collect physical cash from ATMs. And trust me, when you hear how they robbed those ATMs, your mind will be blown. They worked in total silence, watching, gathering intelligence, and only striking when they knew every single detail. Even the world's top investigators couldn't keep up. It all started in 2014. Back then, they were ghosts. Their only mission was to observe. They studied the internal systems of banks, mapped out accounts, and quietly tested vulnerabilities without ever leaving a footprint. For the programmers watching, pay close attention. Correct me in the comments if I miss a technical beat, though I doubt I will. The gang's strategy was methodical. Phase 1 was pure surveillance. Let's say they targeted a bank in China. They would find vulnerabilities and simply record them. They wouldn't exploit them yet. If they found a bug, they might even fix it themselves, but they'd keep a backdoor key so they could reopen it whenever they pleased. They spent months building a massive database of the world's banking weaknesses. Their first real strike happened in Ukraine. On April 8, 2014, a low-level bank employee received a very ordinary-looking email. It looked official, following the exact internal style of the bank's management. When the employee opened the attachment, it was just a simple Word document. Or so it seemed. In reality, that file was a trap. It contained a malicious script that exploited an old vulnerability in Microsoft Word to launch a virus. This virus opened a backdoor into the entire banking system. Suddenly, the hackers could see everything on that employee's screen. They recorded every keystroke, every password, every single move. The employee had no idea that their computer had become a window for the hackers. For Carbanak, that one employee was the gateway. They started with one machine, and slowly, like a silent infection, they took over every server and every branch the bank owned. Within 15 minutes, a cybersecurity specialist arrived. What they discovered was chilling. Someone had gained full control of the domain controller, the brain that manages every single computer and branch within the bank. To put it simply, if you control the domain controller, you own the bank. As the IT manager and the expert sat before the main server, they watched in disbelief as a hacker transmitted sensitive data to China in real time, right before their eyes. The expert was stunned by the sheer power of the breach. It felt hopeless. However, as he desperately searched for a way to mitigate the damage, he stumbled upon a remote access tool the hackers were using. A strange thought crossed his mind. Can they see us right now? He opened a blank Word document and typed a single word in Russian. Hello. For a few minutes, silence. Then suddenly, the cursor moved. A reply appeared on the screen in Russian. You will never catch us. The expert typed back, we will. The hacker's final response was chilling. No, my friend, you won't. That bizarre exchange marked the beginning of a psychological war between elite hackers and cybersecurity legends. It was the start of one of the most dangerous heists in history. But who won in the end? The hackers or the investigators. The first step was total surveillance. Imagine a group of hackers thousands of miles away, watching every single move inside the bank. They saw everything. No transaction, no email, and no meeting happened without their knowledge. After nearly 2 years of silent observation, they executed their first heist, and it was nothing short of legendary. The breach started in Ukraine, but the harvest happened in Taipei, Taiwan, on July 10, 2016. 2 members of the Carbonac gang stepped out to execute the plan. They looked ordinary, wearing medical masks and simple fishing hats. One stood by the entrance, acting as a lookout, while the other walked up to an ATM. He didn't insert a card. He didn't type a PIN. He didn't touch the machine at all. If you were watching the security cameras, you'd see a man just standing there, waiting. Then, without warning, the ATM began spitting out cash like a broken slot machine. It was like a dream. Even the courier himself seemed startled by the sheer volume of money pouring out. He calmly packed the cash into his bag and was about to finish when a stranger approached the machine. His partner signaled him, "Run!" They vanished into the city, following a perfectly rehearsed escape route. Imagine being that stranger. You walk up to an ATM to withdraw some cash, and you find piles of money scattered on the floor. Would you call the police, or would you take the money and run? Be honest and tell us in the comments. That night, it wasn't just one machine. At the exact same second, 20 different ATMs across the city began vomiting cash. This wasn't a glitch. It was a synchronized global heist. For 2 years, this pattern repeated. But how was it possible? How did they coordinate such perfection? The truth is mind-blowing. The entire operation was masterminded by a single leader managing 20 of the world's most elite hackers. Each hacker had their own specialized team. The most dangerous part? No one knew anyone else's true identity. Everything was segmented. The leader managed the entire network through a private dashboard. You'd log in, see your assigned tasks, complete them, and log out. You never knew what the rest of the hive was doing. The process was a masterpiece of criminal engineering. First, the reconnaissance team probed for weaknesses. Then, the infiltration team performed test runs to ensure the back doors worked. Meanwhile, a surveillance team oversaw every move. Once inside, the audit team moved in to scrape data, secret codes, account balances, and daily transaction volumes. They handed this over to the analysis team, who acted like an elite intelligence agency, processing the data to find the biggest targets. Finally, the planning and execution team turned those digital numbers into cold, hard cash. But Carbonac wasn't just a group of nerds behind screens. They bridged the gap between the digital and physical worlds. The leader struck a deal with a massive Russian crime syndicate with operatives worldwide. The deal was simple. We hack the world, you collect the cash. The hackers programmed the ATMs to dispense money at a precise time. The Russian mob provided the mules, ordinary-looking people who just stood in front of the machines at the right moment. The mules kept 10%, the hackers took 50%, and the mafia bosses took 40%. It was a perfect ecosystem. When you're stealing $50 million a month, 40% is a staggering amount of money for very little work. The most hilarious part? When that first heist happened in 2016, the bank's technical teams looked at the logs and concluded it was just a software glitch. They actually thought the people who walked away with bags of money were just lucky bystanders. They had no idea their entire infrastructure had been compromised for 2 years. As the bank managers sat in emergency meetings to discuss these glitches, sitting right there among them was the very same low-level employee from Ukraine, the one whose computer had started it all, completely unaware that he was the Trojan horse that let the wolves in. The bank manager was furious. He gathered his staff and shouted, "This happened because you aren't updating your Windows. When the administration sends an official update email, you open it and install it." He even pointed at our friend, the original victim, as the prime example of a lazy employee who ignores security protocols. He had no idea that he was scolding the very person who had unwittingly opened the gates of hell for every bank in the world. The bank eventually realized this wasn't just a glitch. When they reviewed the security footage from the Taipei heist, they saw the truth. 2 men standing by the ATM, one acting as a lookout and the other with a bag, ready for the cash. They saw how they fled the moment a stranger approached, even leaving $60,000 scattered on the ground. This was the start of a true digital world war. Over 2 years, the Carbanak gang hit 100 banks across 30 countries. Russia and China were the primary targets, followed by the United States and Europe. The total stolen? Over $1 billion. Because the case is so sensitive, most details remain classified. The names of the victim banks, the specific investigators, and the exact code used are guarded secrets to prevent a global economic meltdown. After the 2016 heist, Kaspersky and the banks joined forces to hunt the ghosts. This led to the confrontation I mentioned earlier. The hello in the Word document and the hacker's chilling reply, "You will never catch us." It was more than a chat. While they were talking, the computer was sending commands from Russia to ATMs in China, making them spray cash like water. The IT manager and the expert could only sit there and watch. By the time the expert deleted the malware hours later, the ATMs were already empty. Kaspersky's team told investigators, "We need months just to analyze this. We can't stop them yet because we don't even understand how they're doing it." You see, Carbanak used 3 distinct genius methods. The first was balance manipulation. They would create a fake account with a 0 balance. Then they would deposit, say, $100,000 into a second account. 9 hours later, they would transfer that money to a third account and then withdraw it as cash. Why 9 hours? Because banks typically audit their balances every 10 hours. By moving the money and clearing the logs in under 10 hours, the system never flagged the discrepancy. Through this method alone, they stole over $300 million. The second method was the ATM takeover we saw in Taipei. But the third method was the most mysterious and dangerous. They would set up accounts for their mules, the Russian mob's foot soldiers, with a tiny balance of exactly $3.33. Then, through a magic technical maneuver that remains classified to this day, they would alter the bank's internal data. In a heartbeat, that $3.33 would become $1 million. Suddenly, every low-level courier was a millionaire. If the details of this exploit were ever made public, it would be a catastrophe for the global banking industry. Kaspersky, Europol, and the FBI were struggling. Technically, the hackers were untouchable. They were always one step ahead. But then, the hackers made a human mistake. Their money injection script hit some random ordinary accounts by accident. People with 0 balances suddenly received notifications that they had $1 million. When these people rushed to the bank to withdraw the money, the secret was out. The investigation shifted from the digital world to the physical one. The Taiwanese police took the lead, deploying 500 officers to scrub through thousands of hours of CCTV footage. They tracked every movement to and from the hotels where the suspects stayed. They identified 20 individuals working for the Russian syndicate, mostly Russians and Eastern Europeans. 17 of them managed to flee the country just in time, but 3 were left behind with the cash. Their faces were plastered across every news station in the world. The hunt was finally becoming real. The pressure was mounting. The hackers in Taipei had to get rid of the cash and disappear immediately. Some planned to swim to mainland China. Others tried to smuggle themselves out in shipping containers. One operative stuffed 2 sports bags full of cash and hid them in Dahu Park before fleeing to another district. But the police were faster. When they tracked him down, they knew they were looking for 2 bags, but they only found 1. The mystery was solved when they discovered an elderly man had found the second bag. He thought it was a gift from heaven and simply took it home. The police eventually recovered it, but the drama didn't end there. Another member of the gang hid his share in a locker at the main train station. Shortly after, 2 operatives from Eastern Europe arrived, picked up the bags, and headed to a hotel to rest. When the police raided the room, they found $1.5 million in cash. In total, Taiwanese authorities recovered nearly 90% of the stolen money from their soil. The 3 captured men were sentenced to over 4 years in prison. But here's the thing. These men were just pawns, expendable pieces on a global chessboard. However, even pawns carry secrets. On one of the seized phones, investigators found photos of massive piles of cash in various currencies. These photos had all been sent to one specific email address. That email was the golden thread. Cybersecurity firms, the FBI, and international authorities tracked it back to the mastermind. The man behind the mask, Dennis. a Ukrainian national and arguably the most powerful hacker on the planet. Dennis lived a life of unimaginable luxury in Spain, residing in a high-end villa with his wife and child. He was a programming genius in every sense of the word. At the time, he held 15,000 Bitcoin, worth about $122 million then. But at today's prices, that's over $1.5 billion. The most shocking part? Those 15,000 Bitcoins were clean, earned through seemingly legitimate means. You have to wonder, why would a billionaire risk everything to steal? For Dennis, it wasn't just about the money, it was a self-imposed challenge to prove he could breach any digital fortress on Earth. But his arrogance was his undoing. While Kaspersky was monitoring 30 different suspects, Dennis's mysterious behavior made him the prime target. Every financial move he made became a new clue for the police. In early 2018, they made their move. Authorities raided his villa and found his computer open. No password, no encryption. It was the killing blow. Investigators gained access to everything. Although the rest of the gang used aliases, Dennis was exposed as the brain behind the entire operation. Police seized his luxury cars, $500,000 in jewelry, and his Bitcoin. Yet, despite this, the vast majority of the $1 billion stolen globally remains missing to this day. A year later, Interpol arrested 3 more Ukrainians linked to the network, but the rest of the Carbonak gang, over 30 elite hackers, remain ghosts. Some sources claim Dennis and his crew were part of a Russian cyber army, backed by the state to create chaos in Western financial systems, though no official proof has ever been released. The lesson for you and me is simple. Never click on a link you don't recognize, even if it comes from someone you trust. Never log into a site you aren't 100% sure about. There are many people like Dennis out there today, and even the person sending you a link might be an unwitting victim themselves. Stay vigilant. That was our story for today. I hope you found it as fascinating as I did.